All right, welcome to our webinar. I'm Jacob Findlay along with Chris O'Brien. Hey, Chris.
Good morning, Jacob. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Very excited to cover this topic today, how to hire sales and marketing for your shop.
Interesting concept too. I mean, most people don't think about it, so this is going to be really interesting to dig deep into these details.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've got some really good content. First off, just introductions. I'm Jacob. That's me without a beard in the photo. Chris always looks good though.
It's hard. I'm a little wider these days. Thank you, COVID.
Founder and chairman of Fullbay. Chris is our COO. Quick disclaimer, obviously what we're going to tell you is not specific to your situation, so turn to your professional for advice on your specific, legal, accounting, and so forth situation. Okay, so what we're going to cover is three main things. First, you need to determine if you need to hire somebody, because this might be a hat that you choose to continue to wear, or some existing person in your shop will continue to wear. So we'll cover that. Then if you're going to hire somebody, how do you find the right fit? And then how to attract a pro, somebody that can come in and really move the needle on the top line revenue in your shop. So that's what we'll cover.
Yeah, it is tough these days, right?
Yeah, it is. So first of all, determining if you need to hire. So just a quick polling question here that I'm going to launch. Do you currently have a sales and marketing team? And if you could, respond to this polling question either yes, or as the owner, I also do sales and marketing, or not doing any active marketing or sales at this time. So we're seeing the responses flow in.
Yeah.
Looking good.
It's interesting because, back in the day, I wouldn't have ever thought of having a salesperson or a sales rep at a repair shop or even in the industry, but it's very common, coincidentally.
Yeah, and we'll get into it, but the more, I think the more commercial repair shops start to recognize, those that don't recognize it, what business they're actually in, it starts to kind of open up the possibilities of what you could do with sales and marketing to really grow and make a solid business. So I'm going to end that poll and move on here. So does your shop need a marketing team? So first of all, there's a few questions. Like, if you're as big as you want to get, does it matter, Chris?
I mean, gosh, I think of sales and marketing as more than just, closing deals or getting larger, right? You have to nurture those relationships, and you usually have deep partnerships that need some sort of mechanism to communicate, right? If it's just about the last repair, the last fix you've done, is that really a relationship? Can you really rely on just the service or the quality of your work? Many shops can, and it's successful. But at the same time, having somebody going out, creating those relationships when opportunities open up, having you in position when your business needs to grow or you have capacity is always a good thing.
So in other words, you're saying account management is something that a sales and marketing person can help you with, like nurturing existing customers.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we see that today a lot with social media, and marketing has really come on strong. Back in the day, we were doing flyers. We'd do little mailers to people's houses with coupons and stuff, and that was really marketing. Or put a banner outside, update your logo, throw out some t-shirts, and it's really evolved and changed. So on the sales side and on the marketing side, it really just, making sure that people are aware of who your shop is and representing your brand and what you stand for.
Yeah, that's
a critical component to existing in this day and age.
We talk to a lot of businesses, a lot of shops, and one thing that comes up a lot is you'll occasionally run into a shop that is very dependent on one customer. So if that customer decided to pull for one reason or another, it would severely impact the shop. That's considered what is this? Customer risk, or customer concentration risk from my auditing days. So what's the advantage of having a bunch of, not that you want a bunch of smaller customers, but not having 60% of your revenue dependent on just one customer?
That's tough, because a lot of shops, that's more than enough to keep the lights on, right? Keep everything running. But eventually something's going to happen. It always happens. And it's super risky. And when that day comes, if nobody knows who you are but that one customer, you're in trouble, right? It's going to be a really tough battle to recover from. Or if you lose a couple of techs and you can't service that account, and you lose them just because you can't keep up with their business. They're growing faster than you are.
Yeah.
Always diversify. And often, what's interesting, do a business review on those single customer profiles. We were working with a group out of Michigan last year. Gosh, it's been a while back, and we identified one of their large customers was tying up most of the bays, and the average invoice was $250.
At a very low margin.
Low margin. They kept the lights on, the techs were busy, but gosh, they were turning away big ticket items. And it was an interesting thing to do to really evaluate that business. And now more than ever, if you're gonna be in it for the long haul, you got to be profitable. And sometimes one customer just doesn't necessarily always, make that happen.
Yeah. So think about tomorrow. Not just today.
Absolutely.
So keep the business flowing in. In the early days of Fullbay, when we were first getting our feet underneath us, we would occasionally turn down a large customer that would come to us and want us. And not that you ever want to have to turn down customers. You want to be able to expand as much as you need to, but you kind of want to be in a position where you have a full book of business and you have a lot of people coming in wanting to get in on it, and you got to turn them down. Almost run your shop like a country club, where you bring the customers in and you retain them through regular PMs and so forth. And we'll talk about that. So
yeah, I think too one of the things with that is we had to be very careful and especially anyone starting their business. They're new. They've been doing this for a while and they're branching out on their own. Sometimes large customers come with big responsibility and great demand. You might not have all the equipment that you need to service those accounts. Maybe it's a DPF cleaner, whatever it is. It might put you in a position where you're operating in the red just to have the equipment to service the account, or it might put you in a position where you have to pay so much or to source your parts. Like, really evaluate what comes with those, because there's some very high expectations that you might not be able to live up to. And in the early days of a company, just celebrating that you got the largest account in the market isn't always the best thing. It's a great thing after you've matured and walked a little and started to run and kind of have your bearings.
Yeah, and we continue to turn down customers to this day, right? That don't feel like a good fit. You don't want them to hijack and so forth your company. So that's a good segue to the next point, which is, are you looking to up-level customers and bring in fleets? And I'm not going to use the girlfriend analogy here, like up-leveling, but
I always like that one.
It's a good way to think about this when you talk about larger customers that maybe start to take advantage of a shop that they view as smaller, and maybe we can force them to allow us to buy our own parts. There's no markup, but they still have to handle them and all this stuff, and it just really starts putting downward pressure on the margins of the shop where they're struggling to just stay afloat. You don't want to be in a situation like that. And when you have a lot of inbound demand into your shop from potential new customers, it gives you the freedom and flexibility to evaluate your existing customers and say, are there some of these customers that we need to fire, where we're just not as profitable as we could do with a replacement customer, as could be?
Yeah, it is definitely a slippery slope, and always be careful to protect your business, protect your bottom line, protect your business. And sometimes it's a necessary evil, right? You need somebody to keep the lights on. We always had it. But if you're in a cost plus where, we used to, in distribution, we would do deals where, we would do a major chain and it would just be a little bit of money added to their product and that was it. Whereas we could go service a local shop or a local account and get the margins we needed. And so just really evaluate. If you're in a cost plus business, it's definitely very tight, it's very lean, and it's very difficult to survive those, especially in down markets. Or you're not buying boats, you're not buying a lot of things. And, just make sure you have a good, healthy relationship. And I think these large fleets, having worked at a larger fleet, they respect that too. It's not about the cheapest, right? It's not about always being the cheapest, and you might not be the cheapest. So really consider that if you end up being in a position where you have like an anchor customer, make sure it's a win-win for both of you.
Well, and you kind of determine who your customers are take your labor rates, determine who your customer. If you're trying to be the cheapest in the market on labor rates, you're going to tend to attract customers who really only value how much they're paying hourly for labor, and they're not necessarily looking for the long term. They're not as interested in PMs and really taking care of the vehicles. And they're going to leave you as soon as they find somebody else that's $5 an hour cheaper, right? Whereas there's this phenomenon where, like, as you raise your labor rates, those customers do leave, but you start to attract other customers, or you're able to bring in their business through a sales and marketing function, and they are thinking of the long term, and they're willing to let you come in, take over their PM tracking, and it becomes this healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Like this win-win long-term deal.
And that's, I think, where it ties right into sales and marketing, making sure that there's someone advocating for you and your business.
Yeah.
If you have a strong marketing engine, strong marketing resources, a sales rep advocating, helping these customers, nurturing them, that's where that kind of ties in. Somebody helping you manage the relationship to help justify the position that you're in the market, or the rates that you are entitled to based on market trends.
So do you need a sales and marketing team? Are you looking to expand? Are you doing a financial plan? We may have time to look at the financial plan. You can get this free on Fullbay.com. It's a really good way to think about the year, plan, what levers are we going to pull to get our top line revenue to, from X to Y by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then are you looking to maybe upgrade some of your customers and move into more of a book of business maintenance type approach in a way? Because we were talking about this a little bit before the webinar. We are in the software business. Obviously we're in the business of solving problems for commercial repair facilities. But the way the software businesses used to run is these software companies would sell software to an end user, and they would charge a massive license fee. And then they could almost just walk away. Like, we're done, the sales process is over. And then we'll talk more about that. And the shift has been, because it's a better business model, the shift has been to subscription, where the software company is forced to stay with the customer and make sure that they're happy. And the customer doesn't have this massive upfront thing, and they could walk away at any time. It keeps the pressure on.
Yeah.
And I think a good shop is run the same way, where you get to this level of customer intimacy, and you feel the pressure to keep them happy and keep things moving. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So what does your existing marketing and sales engine look like? Well, before hiring, it's important to lay out what is working and what is not working currently. How are you finding new customers today? What's typical out there for shops?
I hear a lot of shops word of mouth. I mean, you have great technicians, great leadership at these shops. People know that there's quality work coming out of the business. They've got strong P&L. They're going to be around for the long haul. And it usually is word of mouth is fairly strong even to this day. However, there's a big lean in on social, right? We've got websites, social traffic, providing content. We're seeing a lot of shops go out and start helping and educating the market, where, basic stuff like how to hang a mud flap, et cetera, which is then drawing in new traffic from a digital perspective versus word of mouth. Especially if you're in small towns, or again, you've got one major customer and I just don't know who you are. How am I going to find you? So,
yeah. And a lot of shops will be on Facebook. They have a Facebook presence, but a surprising number, I think we go into this in the State of Heavy Duty Repair, our second annual report that we're publishing with TMC. It comes out early next month. We go into how few shops actually have a good website where they can be found. And I was sitting with somebody on our websites team, and they were showing me how difficult it was to find this particular shop that had just signed up for our websites product. They ended up having a Facebook presence, but man, that was very difficult to find. Google search it after Google search, finally found them. It's amazing the power of just having a website has in giving people the ability to find you. So a lot of shops have that. Maybe they're able to maintain that on their own, or they use a third party. Are you tracking marketing costs?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most difficult things we hear.
It's hard,
no one knows. Unless you're purchasing ads and you're tracking those leads, or even if you're in digital and Facebook, you have to do a lot of work. You have to have somebody managing that process and managing that funnel. Otherwise, I think there's just a bucket of money going in, and we're not sure that there's a true ROI coming out, right? It's just like, did I make money this month and it cost me $10,000 in marketing? Some people are just doing it as a very global view versus fine tracking.
Yeah, there's this marketing adage that we talk about a lot, and it used to be like this: so it goes like this: half of my marketing budget is wasted. I just don't know which half.
See, that's a problem. So that to me says we might need to hire somebody. So I guess like tying it right back in, like, how do you know whether to do more of something or less of something if the bucket is just the way you framed it, right? And I think that that's where if you're trying to grow and you're trying to break through, you're trying to be a breakthrough company in 2022, coming out of COVID, you really have to evaluate every nickel that you invest. It has to count. And if you can't measure it, how can you make sure that it counts, right? You're in a situation like you described. You just pour more gas on it, right? Or more money, and you're not sure. You just explain to the owner or the executive team that, hey, it's just going to cost more to do the same thing we did last year.
So it used to be like that. And it still is like that today with many businesses who don't understand how things have changed in the technology space for marketing. And I gave a speech several times last year called From Mad Men to Moneyball, and we were talking about shop operations and so forth. But that kind of phrase applies really well to the marketing space. It used to be like the TV show Mad Men, where you had Don Draper, on Madison Avenue, and they're like drinking, at 10 a.m. and so forth, and managing these, multi-million-dollar marketing budgets for big companies, and they would make decisions based on feeling, gut. And there was some data, but for the most part, that's the best that they could do. Well, you fast forward to today, and it's more like Moneyball, right? In the movie, where there's so many metrics available, you can, to a very great extent, trace marketing spend dollars all the way through to a customer that submits a service request form on your website, and you can know where they came from, how much you spent this month on ads from that place, and really calculate stuff like customer acquisition cost.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a minute. So are you doing stuff like this? We see a lot of shops spending thousands of dollars a month on paid tactics like Google ads and Facebook ads and so on and so forth. At some point, you want to bring in somebody that can help you direct that efficiently, because it'll create more business for the shop.
Yeah, it'll create more business, more awareness, and people will know who you are. And I know that some of the folks that are probably listening to this are saying, I have more business than I need. But is it the right business, right? And so having a strong presence, you should always stay focused and making sure that you have a strong presence and have a nice funnel, right? Maybe there is a wait list to get into the shop, or maybe you only take certain types of jobs that are more profitable than others. But being in that position and leveraging resources, marketing resources to help manage that funnel is critical these days.
Yeah, so can we talk about the concept of a funnel? Like, what in the world does that mean, Chris?
Yeah, well, I mean, most of us know it because we use funnels to put fluids in vehicles, right? Like, I default to that right away.
So you have a tiny little target at the bottom and a big target on top.
Exactly. That's a great way, right? You don't want to spill over. You want things to go in and flow and come out the bottom of the funnel. And so I think with there's a sales funnel, there's a marketing funnel. Things come in at the top of the funnel, and you're working them through the funnel,
right,
to turn them into whether you call it a deal or a completed repair or a finalized estimate. You can consider all these types of activities as things that are going through a funnel process. And at the end of the day, did you win the business, or did you achieve the transaction?
Right. So in other words, you have, if you were to like draw this, you have this funnel. It's shaped like an upside down triangle, right?
Yep.
And the goal is to get as much into the top of the funnel as possible, because as stuff comes down, it falls out, right? So for example, let's say you've got a shop or multi-location or whatever. What goes into the top of your funnel? Like, one of the things obviously is a website. Like, if you do have a website, the goal is to get people to find you, come to your website, and then once they're there, you want them to convert. Basically, click a button and request a repair is probably what it would be, right? Or order some kind of a service. So if you imagine like the funnel in that example, the website, bringing people to the website is bringing people into the top of the funnel, but not every single person that comes to your website is going to click the button to request a repair. It's a smaller percentage. So they're coming down the funnel, and a step on the funnel is requesting service, right? And then probably further down the funnel is actually accepting the estimate and authorizing the repair, and then paying for the repair, and then they're done. So the goal is, I mean, in a perfect world, every single person that comes to your website requests a repair, and every single estimate you prepare is approved. That would be like a straight up and down funnel, and that is the goal, to get as honed as possible. So this point here, do you have an airtight revenue funnel? Like, to what extent, like, are you spending money at the top? Because Google ads would be an example, Facebook ads, all of that. You're spending money to bring stuff into the top of the funnel. Are you tracking how much falls out on the way down? Do you know which tactic up at the top is more effective. Like maybe we see this, maybe you're spending $2,500, $5,000 a month on Facebook ads and another $5,000 on Google ads. And it turns out only Facebook is getting you anything, but you don't know that, right? If you build this the right way, you can answer that and then shift the 5 from Google to Facebook and get more business.
Yep.
Or kill the 5.
Yep. And anyone who's thinking of funnel in terms of fluid, like where I initially was, a lot of funnels have screens. You're really screening things out, right? So if I don't want particles to end up in my engine, I've got these screens in certain funnels. You're along the funnel, you're just putting in certain criteria. Maybe I don't want automotive. Maybe I do. Maybe I want only DPF cleaning and PM services and nothing else. Yeah. So your funnel has screens in it, just like we would traditionally see, and you're using those. But again, if this all sounds very foreign to you, it's again, where are you at with your business goals, and should you consider hiring somebody who's an expert at this? At Fullbay, we absolutely have folks that are experts at this, and it's critical to our business.
Yeah. So if your shop is at a point where you are considering this, well done, because it's hard to run a shop, and this can really take you to the next level. So there's a couple tools linked here. We have a tool that's a cost per customer calculator. Basically where you can put in, how much you're spending on different marketing tactics, and then we help you figure out, well, what is the cost per customer of those acquired there. We're also building things into Fullbay to help you do this. And then there's a good blog article there about marketing in diesel repair shops in general.
Yeah, cost per customer, just one quick plug. If you haven't looked at that, if it cost you $1,000 to get a customer and you sold them, $10,000 worth of work, and maybe you made 10%, just understanding the math of you need them to come back a few more times,
right? Yeah.
Or if it cost you $1,000 to get a customer, and you gave them a great deal because you think I'm just going to give them the smoking deal because that's going to get them back, you're even further in the hole.
Right.
You need them to come back 2 or 3 more times. So think about all of this stuff as investments, right? Those costs add up, and at what point do you really start making money?
Yeah, the most profitable customers are the returning customers.
Correct.
I know there is the model of setting up shop next to a freeway and you're just doing breakdown service, and that, depending, maybe that's what's working in your specific situation. But in general, you want repeat customers. Correct. Because of that. Like once you've acquired them, you want them to come back because that's free.
Yep, absolutely.
Come back. All right, moving on. So next polling question. What marketing channels are you using today? So I'm going to launch this one. And we've got a bunch of options here. Social media, and that would be like Facebook, not like Facebook ads, but posting on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Paid ads like Google ads, websites, cold calling. So if you could just respond in there and let us know if you're using any of these or none. None is an option down at the bottom. And there's a lot of options. You're probably getting hit up by salespeople at Facebook or Yelp or whatever.
Absolutely. There are so many options these days. And this is where, again, like the theme here is like, these are all signs of if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're thinking about this or you're not feeling like your company's performing where they should be, this is where you might consider, there's agencies in marketing or, time to hire somebody that is an expert at this. And then, we'll kind of get into, well, how do you find that person? That's coming up, which is probably what everyone's thinking is, well, all right, give me the name, please, Jacob. It's probably the next request or question. Nice.
So just looking at the results here. So website, pretty much everybody's got the website, and then social media is a close second there. So thanks for your responses there. So let's jump into this, finding the right fit. If once you decide, we could use some help, either a full-time employee or some sort of contractor or an agency, how do you post this? How do you find somebody that's confident, that's not just going to come in and waste a bunch of your money? Because that could happen too.
Well, yeah, I mean,
get the right person in.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about this on a different call, it was really, are we hiring someone to sell that can just close? Are we looking for that person that's, right from a car lot or a trailer shop or a truck shop that can just get somebody in and close the deal and get it done? There is a knack, and there are people who can do that, but sometimes they're one and done. And I think one of the things that, what is the objective of this position that you're trying to fill? And some of the points that we have listed here are, a lot of it's customer advocacy or customer management, right? Like this is some nurturing aspects that I would think anyone would look for. Someone who's looking out for the customer's best interest. They're worried about the customer, just getting one sale and leaving. So customer churn. Just happy customers doing basic business reviews, are you getting what you thought you would get out of our service? And so I think roles, without just reading them all off, I think this is a critical step in beginning the search for somebody in marketing or sales, because it seems like a fundamental. If you're not helping your customers, then I don't think this is a transactional business where you just land a new account, close the deal, and walk away. I think this is a long-term partnership when we're doing maintenance and repair.
I think something also to keep in mind is these things are going to change. I guess the objectives wouldn't change, but the tactics that we're going to talk about in a minute change all the time. So you want to make sure that you are finding somebody who is open to change, because the last thing you want is a marketing person today who's doing the marketing tactics of 20 years ago. Because it just wouldn't be effective.
Yeah, if it definitely, I wouldn't skip this step. If you're getting ready to post the position, think about what you really want. Because if it's just new business, there's many ways to do that. If you want long-lasting business, you're going to want to bake that into this process. Otherwise, you're just going to get a closer, and closers don't necessarily keep the lights on long term.
Can I just bring up a point? So that first point there, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Reduce customer churn. We talked about how almost the ideal commercial repair shop is it's almost like a country club. You have a book of business in place, repeat business from fleets. You're tracking their PMs. They're saving money because by virtue of you effectively tracking their PMs, they have fewer breakdowns, less unscheduled downtime. That lowers the cost of their fleet and satisfies their customers. But also gives you a nice steady stream of revenue. So that's the ideal. What is customer churn? What does that mean? Like I bring in 10 customers a month, brand new customers. How many of them are repeat customers?
Right.
Or what?
Exactly.
How would a shop consider calculating that, you think?
Well, I think it's the repeat business. That's exactly what it is. Or customers canceling. Sometimes you lose customers. Maybe you get one shot, a new technician makes a mistake, and you trade it with somebody across the street or whatnot. That's going to happen, and that's also considered churn. And I think that eventually they come back because they know that you have good service and it was just a mistake. But generally speaking, yeah, it's repeat business, and it's critical that you have somebody who's looking out for the customer in this equation to ensure that they come back. They've got to be able to have some sort of relationship. The shop's got to be able to back it up, right? But if that's not, if that's not something you're looking for, I think this is going to be a tough role to fill. And you might have that scenario where, I went to a webinar and hired a sales rep and it never worked out. Very hard to deny, customer relationship person or someone who's truly looking out for your customers to ensure you retain business. Kind of hard to deny that doesn't work. Can
we just talk about some specific tactics here? Because one way to reduce customer churn is to get them coming back. And they might come back of their own volition. That's ideal. But what are some, practical, tactical things that a shop can do to ensure that customers come back?
Well, one way is to stay in contact with them, right? Okay. So whether that be by way of a sales rep and that relationship or a marketing channel, having some sort of reason to speak with them or make them aware, whether that be events, things that you all are following, industry trends, and even just communicating. Email campaigns, even blogs, like writing about something, helping them. And you see that a lot with even, Fullbay. We write a lot of content to genuinely help folks. So I think that some form, whether it be through a marketing channel or through a direct relationship channel with a rep, is critical in that process. And it's hard to scale, right? There's a certain point where if you started having thousands of customers, this is very, very hard to scale. So this doesn't fit every single, you're going to at some point have to pick and choose, right? Which ones? Because you couldn't afford to hire, football teams or an army of people to talk to every customer, right? You're going to have to evaluate those relationships, and I think also, what are you good at? And I think I might have had that later on. being hyper focused on what is the shop good at. So you've got this role that you're establishing, and as you're getting through this application process, which we'll get into in a minute, what is the shop known for? What are they good at? And hone in on that. If Fullbay is not good at something specific, we don't sell to that market, right? Or we don't try to sell where we're fixing trains or something to that effect. We have folks repairing trains with our software, but we're not going out there trying to run the locomotive or replace locomotive software.
Yeah.
But just understanding what you're good at, focus on those, and evaluate what customer needs are. Some people refer to them as customer problems, customer needs, and make sure that your business or your shop can meet those needs with just basic, like table stakes kind of items, PMs, wet services, DOT inspections. If you don't, and I know those are easy, maybe they're big on clutch jobs. They go through brakes, they run through tires, they have a problem with batteries,
it might
whatever
be different
it is.
with every customer, right?
Right.
So does this role need to work closely with, say, service manager, owner of the shop, whoever is wearing that hat?
Absolutely.
To understand, because at the end of the day, it is the customer's pain points. Like what pain do they have that we can fix?
Yes.
And to that extent, the marketing person needs to understand this and gear all of that content and the communication and stuff around that. Like, hey, because in Lean Six Sigma, there's this concept of voice of the customer, right? And in other kind of approaches, like this idea of customer intimacy. Like, there's something really powerful about knowing your customers really well, because not only does that help you satisfy them with your existing offerings, it makes it really obvious what else you could offer them and help them. It's just this incredible virtuous spiral that goes on. So anyway, the marketing person can't just like be somebody in an office sealed out from everybody else. They need to be actively working with people like the service manager.
Absolutely. And I think, like sales, imagine everyone, if you're looking at a sales team or you're running a shop, you have like weekly meetings or twice a month meetings where everybody gets together and talks about, the performance of the shop. Maybe it's KPIs, et cetera, but also what are customers asking for? What are we good at? What are we known for? Where are we lacking? And you're working on solving those internal problems, and then you're also advocating how you're really good at solving certain problems through these marketing channels or these sales channels. So I think the leadership team, the management team, the folks, the boots on the ground, the technicians should be directly aligned with that sales function and marketing function.
Yeah, totally. So to the extent that maybe we have here managing PMs and keeping customers compliant, I mean, if you think about it, your service manager is probably already doing a lot of these sales and marketing functions today, right? By just necessity.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we need to bring in some work. Let's go run the PMs and see what we can do. So this is something that could be delegated from the service managers to some extent, right?
Absolutely.
It's like a dotted line to the marketing person to free up the service manager to do things that they are really, really good at.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
anyway.
And it could be a rep that just works right directly with the service manager. The service manager pretty much sets their day on what they need them to go put together and who they want them to see.
Yeah, we see that model a lot where the way the service manager is thought of, and I'm not necessarily advocating this for or against, because I think you could misinterpret this, but the service managers are almost seen as the salespeople. They may even be commissioned that way. I know that's the kind of the dealership model, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in a position where anybody's incentivized to take advantage of the customer for short-term gain and so forth. But my point is that this is already kind of happening. And if you've gotten to the point where you feel like you need to be more sophisticated on the marketing front, it's kind of a responsibility that already probably resides with your service managers, service writers, and so forth. And you're just either bolstering that or delegating it out of there to somebody else. So
Absolutely.
Anyway. So, has it been difficult to hire people right now? Yes. What about sales and marketing? Yeah.
If you're looking for sales and marketing.
What about sales and marketing people? So, I'm going to launch this. Maybe you haven't tried recruiting for these roles yet, but if you have, has it been difficult for you? Yes, no, or was this somebody promoted from within the shop? Which you see too.
Yeah.
We have seen it. Like, the amazing thing about, so in a past life, we worked together at a company before Fullbay came to be. And we had just an incredible marketing team of, maybe over 10 people, 10 to 15 people, very few of whom actually had a degree in marketing.
Right. It was interesting. It was this eclectic, forged group. It was just, I think that's, you don't have to necessarily have a sales background or an engineering degree or a mechanical background, but it does help if you know what you're talking about, if you understand the basic repairs, if you understand what the shop is good at and those services, because some people just aren't good at asking for the sale. Kind of a little segue here, but the last thing you want is somebody who's really great and understanding of the business, but is not necessarily a closer. Like they see a brake job and go, gosh, I can't believe we're charging, $400 for that. It's really only worth $200, because they're just seeing it as maybe parts in their personal time. That person, although they might have the skill set and the knowledge to be able to sell a deal, they might be behind the scenes assisting the rep, working the deal or working the quotes to understand the mechanics. But it truly takes someone who understands margin and closing as well, right? Because you probably can. We've seen that too, where you have somebody that you think is the right person, but they're just not a closer.
And you're talking about, there's also the concept of there's a risk of having the operational role mixed with the sales role, like because they might be tempted to not sell very much because they're the ones that have to turn around and execute the stuff. It's
tough because I think there's a tight relationship there where closing and asking for the sale, like asking for someone to commit business. Not everybody. It's almost like asking a girl to the prom, right? Like, or asking your significant other to be married. Not everybody's cut out for that, right? But I think the operations and sales working hand in hand, even if that service person is behind the scenes feeding the information and they have a tight working relationship, they're incentivized to assist those sales reps. I think that those are good, healthy relationships, and we see that across. We were just at a shop in Texas, and we saw that very prevalent, where the whole team, the operations team, was assisting the sales rep with ETAs, positioning, ensuring things were getting done quickly, sourcing parts that cost more, and then the sales rep, assisting with communicating to the customer for approval. So I think that those teams have to work closely by nature, and I think the better they work together, the stronger the company is as a whole.
Another thing to think of here is, I know we're a little bit off track, but I've seen it where not everybody wants to go to flat rate, and in today's environment, not sure if you can always pull that off, but having some sort of a bonus tied to number of billable hours can be really effective. And I've seen it where everybody in the shop, the office team, service writers, and everybody are compensated a little bit for every hour billed, basically. Once again, you have to be careful how you structure this, but doing some things like that can encourage people to get fully aligned with the owner, who at the end of the day, it's pretty much total invoiced hours that drives everything else. Like the parts are what they are. So anyway, something to think about. All right. So once you kind of have the objectives defined, how do you actually find somebody? And we talked about this first bullet point, that's crossed out on purpose. Is a bachelor's degree in marketing necessary? No, it is not. It's not. Like at the end of the day, I think a lot of the people on that team did go to college, but they were humanities majors, right? At the end of the day, you just need somebody who's smart, whether they went to college or not, smart, hardworking, and adaptable.
Yeah. I think that's key, adaptable, because the environment's changing, technology's changing, and a 20-year ago marketer, it's evolved, right? It's night and day from where it was 20 years ago, marketing just in general, or even the sales tactics used.
And I will say also another attribute of this is you want somebody who is laser focused, like they know exactly what their job is. And that is, they come in every day and that is what they're working on. And it's pretty much what we were talking about. It's the funnel. Like, how do I get as much as possible into the top of that funnel? And then how do I convert as much as possible down through the bottom? That's it.
Yeah, sales and marketing. The reason why this whole, even the webinar is sales and marketing, they are working like just hand in glove for sure, even beyond at another level to the ops team, because they're speaking the same language, right? Each one of them has the oar in the same boat. You got to know what's working, what's not. Sales rep goes and makes some calls or follows up on some leads that came from marketing, providing 360 feedback, et cetera. It's definitely a relationship that should be very, very close. And if there is nobody in marketing, well then, who is that person they're working with? You got to know what tactics are truly working and not working.
And there might be somebody, who knows, like you might have somebody who's pushing brooms at one of your shops, who's a young whippersnapper or whatever, and can figure this stuff out, who may be incredible in a marketing role. But somebody within your own walls might help because they understand the industry. Like at a minimum, you're gonna have to teach people. And we've run into this all the time. People, generally speaking, don't really know much about this industry or know that it exists. So you're gonna have to do some education unless you are able to promote from within.
I think too, one of the bullet points, sales is all about customer satisfaction and success, not the bottom line. I think this is important. Like if you're going through your interview process and you're selecting a candidate and all they're talking about is I can get so many deals, and at this last shop I got this deals, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. But did they retain the deals? Get a reference. Call. Hey, you used to work with Josh. How was he to work with? Get some feedback on that person. It's not all about just a wrecking ball of sales and this great resume that shows you can sell hundreds and thousands of deals. It's about, could you create relationships? Because I think this industry, a lot of folks say it's outdated compared to light duty or automotive. Automotive's a little more aggressive. We got big players out there pushing e-commerce, et cetera. The heavy duty space is still about relationships, and you need somebody, I go close a deal, and I'm also doing a fleet evaluation to maybe help a private fleet understand where they should probably just get rid of this vehicle. It's not worth it anymore. I'd love to keep making money on this thing, but this is becoming unhealthy for me to watch this happen, right? Like just having a level of integrity as part of that process that drives satisfaction, drives loyalty, and makes customers really feel like you're working for them.
And it's classic Stephen Covey, right? Win-win or no deal. So if you want long-term relationships, you have to do things that cultivate long-term relationships. Part of that is trust and doing the right thing, even though it may not be immediately beneficial, but it's the right thing for a long-term. You think win-win, right?
Yeah, and if your reps are out there and they're like, I need a budget of X thousands of dollars to wine and dine and do lunches, I'm finding more folks will say, we can do a lunch. It's not the most expensive place, but hey, let's forego this big event. I can take that same money and get you a better deal on this engine overhaul or this clutch job that you have in the shop. Let's go ahead and apply those dollars there instead, and I'll cut you this deal instead of let's go out all night and live it up.
So we're not necessarily talking about big fat expense account for this person, this and that. That's how it used to be. Like you said, it's still relationship driven. Well, you don't have to hire full time, right? So you can find freelancers, contractors, and so forth, right?
Probably more on the marketing side than sales.
Sales
part-time.
And it's more the sales role that the service managers currently have, right? So that's already there. So marketing contractors could be a good option, at least to test the waters.
Yeah, because if you were trying to find one person who is the expert marketer, I don't know that there is there's a term out there, a unicorn. I don't know that there's a silver bullet.
And anybody that says they can do everything, you probably want to run the other direction from them, because anybody that really knows is going to be humble enough to say, look, there's a lot of tactics out there and options. We're pretty good at a couple things, and we can bring resources to bear. But nobody has it all because it's constantly changing, and every tactic is unique. So.
Yeah, I remember our chief marketing officer, because we've known him for a while, and we asked him, his name's Matt. We're like, hey, Matt, we need to do this, this, and this. We know you can do it. Just do it. And he's like, I'm really good at these things, but I know people who can do that. I'm not your guy.
Yeah, it's like any role that you're hiring for.
Yeah,
you gotta.
You earn some respect for that, right? But he could have just said, I know everything, and kind of faked it till he made it. The reality is that this business is very, very complicated on the digital side, and this, part-time, we did that at one point where, we had the equivalent of probably 2 full-time marketers. It was across 4 people because 2 marketers couldn't didn't have the skill set of the 4 different people that we needed. So we basically had 4 contractors filling the role of 4 bodies. And then
very effective.
Yeah, it was very, very effective. Because, optimizing SEO or a digital presence, managing website content and direct mailers to customers, or loyalty programs and nurture programs. There's all kinds of unique aspects to marketing. And there's a lot of skilled individuals out there. But I agree with you, Jake. There's not these unicorns that do it all.
Another advantage of using contractors for this is if you find that a certain tactic that contractor is helping you with isn't effective, it's really easy to just end the relationship and so forth, versus like having a full-time employee that's just doing that thing. So test the waters and so forth. And so a marketing agency is somebody that could do this. And ideally you find somebody who knows the diesel repair, commercial repair industry, because you don't want to have them come in and start blowing a bunch of money. Like if you don't do retail repair, light duty repair, maybe you do, but if you don't want to suddenly get flooded with a bunch of service requests from people wanting their Buick fixed, right? And you just blew $5,000 on some marketing campaign to get you that. That's the last thing you want. So you want to start small, probably start with contractors, test the waters, and ideally get somebody that knows the industry.
Yeah, it's probably going to be tough if you end up going down the route with an agency. Plan on investing some time and teaching the agency. They're going to want to interview you. They're going to have some very specific items that you're going to have to share with them. You're going to have to, the nomenclature of this industry, the slang, right? What people are looking for.
Yeah. And I would say you also need to be familiar with these tactics yourself, so you can kind of call BS and push back and so forth, because like anybody that's working for you, you want to expect results, and it doesn't have to be a black box. So
Correct.
It's okay to understand these tactics. So how do you attract like a pro? We have a couple job descriptions that we're going to link here that you can see as examples of marketing roles. So Arizona Diamondbacks, which their stadium, the Diamondbacks play across the street from us here. They're hiring a director of marketing. You can see their example while it's still live. And then one of our business development rep examples you can see our all of our job roles on our website, fullbay.com/about us, for examples. But do your homework, have a good job description. Remember, a job description is one way that you can hold employees accountable after you hire them. It's an upfront agreement. This is what we expect from you. Let's do your 90-day review. How are you doing against what we hired you to do?
Metrics, usually, what do you need from the role? And so sometimes it's, you'll go online, see examples, and they're very vanilla or generic. Change those. If you need this to happen in your shop, that we have to have 20% of our repairs come by way of preventative maintenance inspections, or only 30% of the revenue can come through PMs. Whatever metrics that you're beholden to, bake them right in. Bake something into the job description.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, having metrics in there being powerful. I believe it was our last webinar, but if you look on our website at the past webinars, we talk about the shop financial plan, and I think we're going to link it here. But once you kind of get your head wrapped around a financial plan in a spreadsheet, we have a really simple, straightforward one. It really starts to get you thinking about, what if we could move the percentage of our repairs that are preventive maintenance from 10 to 20%? What impact would that have? And so when you're hiring for this role, just come out and say, hey, look, we expect this person to help us get our PM percentage from 10 to 20%. It's in the job description. And then lay it out so they know, hey, this is what we're going after. And stuff like that, those are the ways that you get alignment in an organization. You get everybody rowing in the same direction, as it were. Yeah. And the core of it, we love that one. Yeah, the core of it is that financial plan. So if you haven't done it, do it. Get that going. If you're not the only owner, or if you're not the owner, get everybody on board. It suddenly gives you a lot of focus and gives you control over the shop. So you're running the shop isn't running you. It's one of the key ways to do that. So.
Yeah, and maybe spend just a little bit of time on what is the purpose for your shop? And it sounds silly, just me just saying like, what is the purpose? Well, we repair vehicles, but is there, do you repair vehicles in the sake of providing safe highways, or uptime for fleets, or what is your true purpose and mission? And put a statement together to kind of sell your shop. Going into this process and just talking all about how amazing your shop isn't going to help the process. Just containing it into 1 or 2 sentences. When someone says, tell me a little bit about your company, well, this is what we're about, and this is how we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Sell your company. Exactly. And if you're not hiring from within the industry, and chances are you're not going to find somebody within the industry, right? So if you're not hiring an agency or a contractor, if you're actually hiring a role, one of the really good ways, and we've experienced this a lot, to help people understand this industry is to relate it to them and their personal life. Basically, it's to say, hey, look, all those semi trucks you see on the roads, so delivery trucks, whatever, we all share the roads with these things. They're kind of dangerous. And if they're not properly maintained, unfortunately, people die or are injured, and it happens all the time. We're in the business of preventing that from happening, right? So we partner with fleets. We track their PMs. We do whatever unscheduled repairs pop up, but we're in the business of keeping these vehicles safe. Fleet makes more money, we make more money, and everybody on the road is safer. And coining it or kind of positioning it that way helps people outside the industry immediately understand what we're about and what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, take that statement he made, send $5 to me.
Yeah.
For cueing that out of him. No.
Thanks for the softball.
That was great. Yeah. I mean,
that's what we're about. And it's real. So interviewing and bagging yourself a pro, there's a great book we should recommend. Chris, should we say it? It's called Who,
WHO.
There's a book,
Who,
not
WHO.
World Health Organization. Who, WHO.
Yeah, it's an easy read. It's not too bad. It's more executive level recruiting. You're probably not going to be able to pour all of that into technician, but there's good concepts for sure.
So know what to ask. Make sure that you kind of know the tactics and what's expected. And once again, if you've done a financial plan, you know what you're hoping to achieve through this role. It's going to help up a lot.
Major red flag too. I just really haven't seen this pan out. I mean, I'm getting up there. I'm not as old as some of y'all on this call, but I've just being in this hiring role for a long time and going through some interviews. I'm not the best interviewer at all. However, I enjoy meeting people, and one major red flag that I've never seen work out is somebody in an interview process really complaining about the prior employees that they work with and the prior company. There's a way to structure that conversation, but if you find yourself in a situation while you're interviewing a sales rep or you're interviewing a marketing person, and the majority of the conversation, or there's some sort of toxic tone to their prior employer, it's a pretty good red flag. Move on to the next one. Maybe put them to number 5 on the list or something.
We should do a whole thing about hiring. A whole webinar about hiring.
Maybe we should, because that's just, I've never seen it pan out. And what's really crazy is I've seen some folks where I've been in interviews, full sleeve tattooed, talking really fast. They were amazing. Some people are like, oh, you have tattoos, wouldn't hire you. Oh, they talk too fast. That means they're full of energy. And they're proud of themselves, and they ran it right up their hand up to their arm. So there's attributes that you can pull out of there. That's just my little
I mean, if your objective is to kill it, to execute, make money, make a difference, you got to look past that stuff.
You got to really look past some of the stuff.
Well, thanks for your attention. So obviously Fullbay is heavy duty repair software, and if you'd like to see a demo of Fullbay and see how it could work for your shop, I am going to launch that question here. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help and give you advice more on this. And if there's another topic that you'd like us to address, reach out as well. So just hit us up, and we really appreciate your interest. And also, we just launched a referral program. So if you love Fullbay, you can tell your friends and get paid when they sign up. So it's a 3-step process. You generate a code, refer a shop, and when they sign up, you earn a reward. So if you go to share.fullbay.com/webinar, you can get started on that. So if you know people who need this, you can share, and then build up the Christmas budget for next year or something.
Yeah, and we got this from all of you. So some of you on this webinar or who have been on previous webinars asked us to do this, and we're happy to do it. Unfortunately, I tried to get me to be able to qualify for it. It didn't work, but it was for you. We did this for you, and we appreciate the feedback you gave.
Awesome. Yeah. So we appreciate those of you who are customers. Thank you for your faith in us. And it's good talking today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.